as we touch on the Grizzlies, this matchup, there's a lot of intriguing matchups all over on both rosters. But for me, it starts with the point guard battle. And that's Ja Morant, that's Jalen Brunson. Now, you've gotten a chance to see Jalen Brunson a number of times covering him in the Southwest Division. First, give me your thoughts on Brunson and his impact on this Knicks team, this Knicks roster.
Well, the one thing I know that it wasn't the big name splash that everybody thought the Knicks were going to be able to get this summer, but you get a solid basketball player, somebody that is capable of results. And at the end of the day, you want W's. He's been around winning basketball. A lot of the reason why Dallas was good was of course, Luka is who he is. But then conversely, you throw it on the other side, it was Jalen Brunson. And that was their 1-2 punch that they played off of. And he does a great job of getting into the paint. He finishes at every level, whether it be getting towards the rim, finishing in the mid-level, can shoot the ball out to the three-point line, high basketball IQ. So I think what they didn't gain in maybe name recognition, they got in game recognition because Jalen Brunson has a lot of game.
Yeah, there's no question, man. And I think the impressions that we've gotten from him so far is first off, he just seems to fit right in. He's only preseason, but he's coming. He seems very steady, doesn't seem to get too rattled. A lot of these guys seem like they're rallying around him. Even Julius Randle seems to have a Julius Randle kind of calm and even keeled as well. And his paint presence, man, his ability to get into the paint, his ability to knock down high efficiency shots from the mid-range and at the rim for his size. I mean, talk about that a little bit, with his size and his skill sets and his ability to get to the rim. I mean, that's got to impress you a little bit.
Well, the thing I always say is guys of his size, he was always that size. He was never, it's not the other way around where he probably was the big man until he got into high school and then all of a sudden had to become a guard. He was been a guard and has been undersized as he's worked his way up. So seeing guys that are bigger, how to finish, he's been doing that. How to play around them, make passes, make plays. He already knows how to do it. He has just been able to take it to the highest level and continue to be successful at it. And so I tell people, for guys that are smaller, we only notice the size difference when we step off the court. Like when I step off the court and we go out to dinner with somebody, I start to be like, damn, bro, you kind of tall. But when we was out there on the court playing, I never see that. I just see the game. I don't see, oh, well, you're tall and I'm small. And so I think the same mentality goes for Jalen Brunson. And the one area where he hurt us when he was in Dallas was he lived in the paint. And whether it was scoring, drawing defenders, and then whether it's his getting a shot, a drop off, but it led to offensive rebounds. And you guys with Mitchell Robinson had one of the best offensive rebounders in the game. So it also helps in that area, forcing help that allows other guys a chance to eat.
Yeah, and that's going to be an intriguing matchup, especially for Morant, because I kind of see it as, the physical play of a Brunson. You have the speed and tenacity of a Ja Morant. What are some of the things you think a Taylor Jenkins might do to kind of scheme, Brunson away from his strengths?
Well, the biggest thing is you want to try to keep him away from his left hand as much as possible. And if you can keep him to your right hand, then at least every shot going right is coming back to a defender's face. You're making him have to finish with right-hand floaters instead of his comfortable left hand. But also you got to make right-hand passes going that way so you don't have to throw through the body. So as much as they can try to keep him right-hand, they will like to do. But the matchup in and of itself, we'll see how much they match up. But the difference is, we all know, Morant, his game is predicated on his speed, on his athleticism, but also his smarts with the game of how to use it. Because I tell people, you can go out there and run fast all the time, but at some point, you got to change speeds. And that's the other thing that he does a fantastic job of. So the way the Knicks had success last year in some way of defending was crowding the paint, and using their size and length. And so the Grizzlies have to move the ball well, make sure they move bodies well so that those creases are there for Ja to exploit.
Absolutely. Now, and on real quick on the defensive end with Ja, obviously he doesn't have the size. You see the blocks, some of the outstanding blocks that he made throughout the season, but it just seems like even though he has his deficiencies, he seems like he still tries to compete out there on the defensive end. That's certainly been noticeable in me watching a couple of the preseason games by the Grizzlies, is that, you're not going to be a lockdown by any stretch, but he's out there scrapping. He's fighting for loose balls. He's out there, really putting some tenacity out there on the defensive end, and it seems like the guys kind of rally behind that.
Yeah, whenever you talk about people getting better from year to year, a lot of times you only talk about the offensive side, but there are other areas to get better, and it's on the defensive side. And from him, it was, as you said, not going to ask him to lock anybody down. We're not asking you to expend your energy on that end of the floor, but just be a consistent defender, be in the right place defensively, whether that is on the ball or off the ball. But then that same quickness, the length, the anticipation that he uses on the offensive end is something that he could adopt to using on the defensive side. And in the preseason, we've seen that coming up with blocks, not just the rundown, chasing the highlight, blocking jump shots with using that, getting in the passing lane, using his quickness to come up with steals. And so if he can just be disruptive in the right position defensively, then that's all the team can ask for. And then from there, though, that means that they don't have to overhelp. That gets you into rotations, that then eventually it forces your defense to break down. And this preseason, you've seen a lot better dedication to consistent defense from him throughout the minutes that he played.
Now, Brevin, we mentioned how the Knicks like to crowd the paint, right? And John Morant, you talked about how he likes to use his speed, his athleticism to attack the rim and to draw defenders in. One of Ja's games that people have been questioning is his jumper. We know that that's not his strong suit. From pull-up twos last season, he shot 38.8% from the field. Do you think Ja is going to come into the season with the better jumper, or do you think that's going to be the Knicks' strength, just to force Ja just to take a lot of mid-range jumpers? I mean, that's why you brought up clogging the paint, right?
Well, yeah, of course, you want to take away a person's strength and force them to a lesser part of their game. The lesser part for him right now, of course, is perimeter shooting, and that's just in percentages. But he doesn't. If you start to say, well, what percentage of your game is jump shots as opposed to drives to the basket, now those numbers can become skewed in some way. I tell everybody, if you can get into numbers, I can make those numbers say whatever I want them to say. And so for him, the biggest thing is it is being a threat to make those shots. And I thought what he did in year 2 was he made himself a threat to make those shots. Year 3, now what do you do in terms of making shots? And then you move forward, you just want your percentages to go up. And I think for him, it went from not really attempting them to attempting them to making them. And now where does your percentage go? And so he won't be afraid to take the threes. This team's going to continue to encourage him to take threes, especially when teams go underneath, and he's shown the ability to make them. So, yes, the next natural progression is step-in jump shots. I come off, step in, left, right, pull up. I'm going left, step in, right. Yeah, that's because he has figured out how to make floaters. He's figured out how to get shots in the paint. He's figured out how standstill threes to feel comfortable. But that next level of now you want to become one of the greatest. Yeah, those are all levels that he'll add to his game, but they are levels that we've seen improvement every year as a pro.